Hmm?
Yeah. Good morning, participants. So, myself, Dr. Amrit, I'm the coordinator for this faculty development program. I welcome you all for the 5-day online faculty development program on the recent development in communication. So, mainly in this, we are going to cover the, what are the various communication materials, innovative materials, techniques, testing protocol, materials, and documentation. Initially, the Atal Academy had planned an inauguration session for all 38 activities that are going to start today in a common platform. But later on, they have changed the inaugural session from 10 a.m. to 9 a.m. So we could go to disturb our whatever the schedule that we have planned. That's why, with the brief introduction, we have decided to start the session. So anyway, Atal Academy start the inaugural session at 11 o'clock. That is the planning session. So there are another platform we are going to start. So, but we are not going to deviate, and the lecture sessions as we plan according to schedule it will come. Actually, I just introduced my team. Who are the person behind this organization is conference? Myself, Dr. Amarendra, coordinator, and my friend Mr. Rupas Kumar, he is the co-coordinator, and Mr. Sarana Kumar is the HOD Civil Department. Mr. Chaitanya is one of the organizing committee member, and Mr. Lingamurthy is software engineer, he is software engineer. Mr. Govardhan is also IT software staff. So now I request and in particular the Department of Engineering. Sarana, please. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And myself, good morning, one and all. Myself, Sarana Kumar, and head of the Department of Civil Engineering. I'll give a brief introduction about the institute and the department. Institute comes under Rajiv Gandhi University of
నార్మల్గా దినేష్ రెడ్డి
Knowledge.
సార్కి చెప్పాను సార్ ఇది
Was
జరుగుతుందని
established in
ఇది ఒక
2008
మాట
by
చెప్పండి
Government of
పోకుండా ఉంటామని
recognized as per Section 2A of UGC Act 1956. The primary objective of establishing Rajiv Gandhi University of Knowledge Technologies is to provide high quality educational opportunities for the aimed rural youth of Andhra Pradesh. The top 1% of rural graduates from SSC examinations is given opportunity to study at RGB in 4 campuses, which are established in the 4 different parts of Andhra Pradesh. One being in RK Valley, which is our campus. The other three sorry. Nusuru, Srikakulam, and Ongole location. And RGPT offers ICT-based education employing a unique pedagogy such as learning by example, learning by doing, and presently the university offers 6 undergraduate programs and 6 postgraduate programs. The institute has well-equipped laboratories in all branches and also has close interactions with the industries. Coming to the department of Civil Engineering was established in 2010. The department has faculty with strong academic, research, and industrial background who held from prestigious institutions like IITs, NITs, and other reputed central universities located across the country. The department has specialist persons in the field of transportation engineering, structural engineering, environmental engineering, water resource engineering, geotechnical engineering, ocean engineering, and construction management. And also the department laboratories laboratories which are established with the latest and advanced equipment so as to stimulate practical knowledge. The students and faculty in executing high standard experimental making the academic research and the industrial needs. going to our colleagues carry forward the sessions. Thank you, and all.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Charan Kumar. So let me briefly explain why we have selected this this topic for the FTP. So we are all aware that the construction of highways with heavy concrete units in India has increased in the recent times. So due to various advantages to the cement concrete such as high resistance and durability. However, these properties we are all know that mainly depend on the selection of materials, mix designs, pavement design, and quality of construction. So if you do any mistake in any of these four, then definitely there will be again disasters. So as different types of cementitious products, aggregates and admixtures are being used in the preparation of concrete, it is necessary to study the properties of these materials and their long-term behavior. So the new guidelines that we have right now for the design of concrete unit IS 2015 have brought in major changes. Suppose if you can see the old guidelines like even IS 58 2002 as well as 2012, then the new guidelines that is IS 58 2015, so a lot of changes are brought in. So it is with respect to loading characteristics. Therefore, proper understanding of the guidelines will assist in economical pavement design. Suppose nowadays you might have seen in the number of the DPR points on those, simply they suggest some design, some thickness like 300 mm, 280 mm, 300 mm. Whether it is economical or not, it all depends on the like the how you are doing the designs or the translation of the active loads, all those things. And nowadays, even if you can see in the new guidelines, there are a lot of changes they have brought in the loading carriage, also like active load studies. So we felt that it is necessary to study all those things. In addition, it is necessary to understand the design and construction of concrete overlays. So that is one of the important areas. Like as most of the urban agencies who are responsible for the maintenance of the road, they are now more concentrating on the concrete overlays on the existing bituminous fields, that is white topping. So we felt it is also one of the important details for the discussion. In addition, the concept of pervious concrete units, that is also coming one of the burning problems, I can say. So for the sustainable growth. So we felt that this was important to be included. Alright. So this is the few areas keep in mind, like one is the materials, the second one is the mixed design, third one is the construction, quality control, and fourth one is the stresses, how the loading characteristics, and the next one is the overlay, and the last one is the pervious concrete. With all these topics keep in mind, we have designed this FTP, and accordingly we have sent the proposal to the AACTE for permission to conduct FTP under ATAL AACTE Teaching and Learning Program. They have accepted the permission to conduct FTP. So I have sent you the detailed schedule, which consists of total 14 lectures. Right. In addition to the 14 lectures, we have 2 more lectures on the stress management to concrete yoga and meditation. So I request everyone kindly, it is under the PTL program. AACTE itself suggested to organize at least 1 or 2 exclusive sessions on the stress management. That's what we have decided to organize 2 sessions. So I request you kindly attend all 14 sessions and yoga sessions also. And of course, you are all aware of the guidelines because the attendance requirement as well as the examination requirement, all those things. I don't want to explain all those things now. So with this brief introduction, I will now introduce the grace faculty, Dr. Surendra Singh. Then afterwards I hand over session. Yeah. So today first lecture that we have today, like design fundamentals of concrete equipment, and second lecture is concrete mixed design and fundamentals. Both the lectures will be delivered by Dr. Surendra Singh, Assistant Professor of IIT Madras. So I'll introduce him. Okay. So Dr. Surendra Singh is an Assistant Professor in the Department of Civil Engineering, Specialization of Transportation Engineering, Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, Chennai. He completed his PhD at Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee, and in the year 2018, where he worked extensively on various cement concrete pavement application. The designation and RAP for sustainable concrete pavement has received the prestigious Indian National Academy of Engineering Innovation Project National Award in 2019. Dr. Surendra Singh obtained his bachelor's in civil engineering from State Government College, GCRUST, that is Markham, India, in 2013, and went to pursue MTech in Transportation Engineering at National Institute of Technology, Kurukshetra, in year 2013 to 2015. His master's dissertation topic was related to the design of cement concrete units. The findings of which also earned the prestigious Indian Award Concrete Bihar PWD National Medal in 2017. So presently, Dr. Surendra Singh is working on different aspects of concrete pavement, such as valorization of recycled material, design and monitoring of concrete pavements in RCCP and rural roads. So his research is mainly focused on material characterization and utilization of different recycled aggregates, such as RAP and recycled concrete aggregate for cement concrete pavement application. His research area also includes industrial and agricultural waste for pavement mixes. So in total, he has published more than 25 dedicated scientific articles on sustainable cement concrete mixes in various international science citation tech journals. Currently, Dr. Surendra Singh has 4 ongoing research projects, all are on recycling of materials for concrete pavement application. He has 2 PhD scholars, 1 MS student and 4 MTech students. All are working in the area of valorization of different industrial and agricultural waste for sustainable pavement application. Besides, Dr. Surendra Singh is an executive board member in Indian Concrete Institute and has been recently invited to serve as co-guest topic editor for the journal Frontier in Built Environment. So with this introduction, I hand over session to Dr. Surendra Singh. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, present now what of my స్ట్రీమింగ్ పెట్టింది సార్, దాంట్లో రికార్డ్ అవుతుంది సార్. అది నెట్ సార్ ఇంకా. ఓబిఎస్లో ఉన్నది రికార్డ్ అవుతుంది.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Most of a cement concrete pavement. Okay, the thickness can vary from 20 to 40 centimeter. And you should remember, this is the thing that you need to design very effectively. Although we need to design every different layers, but it will definitely affecting your economy of the project. So in a nutshell, what we can say, the thickness of different layers of a concrete pavement, especially the embankment, subgrade, GSB, separation layer, be repeating. This is the first analysis, mechanistic empirical analysis, wherein effective stresses. And obviously in the structure model,
ఓబిఎస్లో అనేది రికార్డ్ అవుతుంటుందా?
so some of the loading will be transferred to the other slab, but at the edges it's open. So when it's open, it will be more critical. So this is the explanation given in IRC 58. Okay. Now, as far as the loading is concerned, now whenever I go to the classes, they will be considering that the concrete that you are using for buildings as well as the payments are same. No, the design is not same, the material slab, but at the edges it's open. Right? So when it's in case of the buildings, what you are doing, you are designing based upon the loading. Okay, when you apply the loading, stresses will be coming, this portion will be in tension, this portion will be in compression. So you know concrete is weak in tension, so what will happen? Cracking will be developing. Right. Similar thing will happen in case of the pavement, but also in pavement, the stresses can happen when there is no load also. Okay, that is because of the frictional stresses. Okay, so assume one condition that you have constructed your pavement on many rollers. Okay, again I think somebody started. Okay, again go to the screen.
Sir, no problem. As long as we pin you, we could able to see your screen. You please continue, sir.
No problem, sir. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Bluetooth.
Okay, thank you. So let's assume that your pavement slab has been constructed over the rollers. Okay, there are many rollers. So what happened? If you can see my hand, okay, let's say if somebody is twisting my hand, okay, there will be no stresses, right? Because I'm not resisting towards this. Will be, restricting this movement. So definitely there will be some stresses. Similarly, when if the concrete want to compress, allow it to compress, there will be no stresses. But in real condition, it doesn't happen, right? Because the pavement is not constructed on the rollers, where you can simply, when it's trying to compress, it can be compressed because the pavement will be constructed on subgrade, subbase. So if it is trying to compress, the below lays will try to resist that movement. So because of that, the stresses that are the frictional stresses will be coming, and because of that the cracking will be developing. So here what I mean to say that without loading also the stresses can happen onto the concrete pavement. Okay, and these stresses are because of two things. One is because of temperature and the other one is because of the moisture. So in case of the temperature, we have two stresses. We can broadly classify into thermal shrinkage and the curling stresses after hardening. Similarly, because of the moisture, we are having drying shrinkage and warping. Okay, if you read many books, they will be confused between curling and warping. You should remember, curling happens because of the temperature variation, and because of the moisture, warping will happen. Okay, so okay. Then Westergaard, when they did the analysis, they constructed their structure model, distress model, they validated these models, and then they come out with some equations, mechanistic equation. Now these are not empirical equations. Empirical means based upon some test track, based upon some field studies. And mechanistic empirical equations means when you are constructing, when you are making a model and validating it with the help of the field trials. Okay, so these equations are more reliable. Okay, because they have been calibrated. So for different loading conditions, they came out with different equations. Okay, so what you have to do, you have to find out the stresses when your vehicle, okay, of different loading, P is loading here, when they are flowing over a pavement with different thickness, okay, and then radius of relative stiffness that we just now discussed. So how much stresses will be coming, and you need to compute all the stresses, and you have to see these stresses should be less than the flexural strength of the concrete. Okay, until your stresses coming because of different vehicles is less than the flexural strength of the concrete will not fail. But if your stresses are more than the strength of the concrete, definitely it will be failing. Similarly, for the temperature, there will be some stresses because of the curling. So they came out with different equations. Okay, so there is stresses because of the loading, there is stresses because of the curling. You have to club both the things together, and then both the stresses should be less than the strength of the concrete. Okay, so these are the mechanistic empirical equations that we used to follow up, but in the case of the IRC 58, new IRC 58, we have changed this procedure. Okay, earlier we were calculating the stresses separately and then clubbing them. Nowadays we have a single equation where we can club both the things. Okay, and this figure, this is the Bradbury figure, where you can see here that if your length of this slab or your width of this slab exceeds, okay, the stresses in the payment will be increasing. Okay, so what you can do, that your slab dimensions should always be lesser. If the slab dimensions are lesser, the stresses because of the curling will be lesser. Okay, normally in case of the IR certificate, what we have considered a width of 3.5 and a length of 4.5 meters. Okay, so for all the equations are valid for a slab size of 3.5 into 4.5. Okay, so how to compute the frictional stresses? So let's assume that this is a payment slab. Okay, and here one more thing. One more thing is that we are not constructing the payments in different slabs. Okay, we will construct the payment in a single go. After that, we'll be cutting some joints. Okay, so the fundamentals behind cutting the joints is that if you are not cutting the joints, the frictional stresses will be coming and cracks will be happening at different locations. Okay, random locations. And if some cracks are coming at the random locations, you cannot, monitor it, you cannot maintain it. Okay, it will be not economical. So for that, what we do, we provide the joints after constructing our payment. And now if you see here, if I provide a joint, so what will happen? The concrete at this location will be less, the thickness of the payment will be less. So obviously, this is the weak joint. So obviously, when the stresses will be coming, the resistance to stresses at these locations will be less, and that's why cracking will be happening at these joints. Okay, so you have to maintain. Now I know the cracks will be happening here, so I can take proper precautions. Okay, anyway, this is not a part of today's presentation. Okay, it's for the joints, but I thought, okay, it will be good for the undergraduate students. So what will happen? Let's say this is my payment of length length L, breadth B, and thickness H. Okay, if my concrete is trying to compress, let's say it winters. Okay, in winters my concrete slab will try to compress. You all will be compressing, right, in the winters. So what will happen? As we discussed, the concrete slab is prepared on the subgrade, so it will try to resist that movement, right? So there will be some frictional forces. So if I cut the pavement into two halves, okay, by length, what will happen? To resist these forces, okay, there because of these forces, there will be some stresses that will be coming into the pavement, okay, and these stresses are tensile stresses, right? So how to know how much frictional stresses are coming? You can simply relate it. You can assume a equilibrium conditions, that first of all find out how many frictional forces will be coming, how we can calculate the volume of the concrete multiplied by the frictional coefficient F, and obviously your weight of the concrete slab will also be contributing, right? Higher the weight of the concrete slab, more will be the friction. Thinner slabs you are having, lesser will be the friction, right? And this much of stresses will be coming. So you have to equate the frictional forces with the total tensile strength. So A is here area. What is area? B into H. Okay, if you compute both the things, you relate it, you'll find that sigma, that is the stresses occurring because of the friction, will be equal to weight of the concrete, the length of the concrete, the frictional forces that will be coming. Okay, so you can find out the frictional stresses, and based upon that, you can design your tie bars. Okay, so obviously, so like we discussed that the stresses because of the loading and stresses because of the curling are always submissive, but frictional stresses may or may not be critical depending upon the condition, depending upon the weather. So let's say it's summers. So summers, what will happen? You will try to run. Okay, so concrete will try to expand, but it will be restrained to do so by the subgrade. So what will happen? If you see the signboards here, it's compressive in the nature, and we know concrete is good in compression. That's why you have to subtract the frictional forces. Suppose in winters, what will happen? The concrete will try to compress, right? But this movement will be resisted by the subgrade. So what will happen? It will be in opposite direction. That means if you see the sign here, it's tensile in the nature, and you know concrete is not good in tensile, right? So what will happen? These frictional forces will be additive in the nature. And at the corners, because they are free to run, okay, because corners they are free to run, so no frictional stresses will be coming. But is it the real scenario? Because in single day also, the temperature during the morning time will be different, at the night time will be lesser. Okay, why we are considering only summers, winter? That means we need to consider the daily temperature variation. So if you see here that In the daytime, the temperature differential in a pavement will be higher. So that means because of the temperature, the stresses in the pavement will be more during the daytime. At the night time, the temperature in the pavement will be lesser, temperature differential. That means the stresses will be lesser. However, as per the Indian law, what will happen? We are not allowing the heavy commercial vehicle during the daytime. So the commercial vehicle will be flowing at the night time. Okay, so see here, because of temperature, or let's say during the daytime, what is happening? The stresses because of the temperature will be more, but the stresses because of the loading will be lesser. In the night time, the stresses because of the temperature will be lesser, but because of the loading, because all the trucks are flowing in the night time will be higher. So you need to work out the critical combination. So that has been taken care in IRC 58 design, and they named it as bottom-up cracking and the top-down cracking. So now we understand what is bottom-up cracking. Let's say it is the morning time. Okay, you will be having a sun here, right? And you all know, right, that when there is sun, you don't want to go towards the sun. Similarly, concrete pavement slab will tends to curl downwards, okay, because of temperature differential. So what will happen? Can it curl? No, it cannot curl. Okay, because the subgrade will be there, the double bar will be there, the tie bar will be there, the concrete pavement thickness will be there. It won't allow to curl. So what will happen? The tensile stresses will be generating. So let's say if it's trying to curl like this, the subgrade will be opposing it. The double bars will be opposing it. So it will try to send it back. So when it's trying to send it back, so what will happen? The compression will be at the top and tensile will be at the bottom. Similarly, what will happen at the night time? The high temperature will be here, lower temperature will be here. So what will happen? Obviously, the concrete slab will try to, run towards the lower side. Okay, but because of all these factors, it will be trying to resist that movement. So tensile stresses will be appearing at the top portion and the compressor will be at the bottom. And concrete is not good in tension. Okay, and when the vehicle is coming at the same time, so it will be adding up to these tensile stresses. So in case of the daytime, when all the vehicles are coming, the tensile stresses will be occurring at the bottom portion and the cracks will be generating at the bottom. And in due course of the time, the cracks which are generated at the bottom, it will come to upside. Okay. So these cracks are known as bottom up cracking because they have been generated at the bottom. Okay. And in the night time, because of the temperature, the tensile stresses at the top will be more. And when the entire vehicle, you see, here only single vehicle is coming, means single axle is coming. Here when the entire vehicle is coming, so let's say this is my pavement position line. So what will happen? I need to have two forces. So that when two forces are there, it will try to, add up to these tensile stresses. So because of significant tensile stresses will be there, so cracks will be happening at the top portion and it will go towards the lower portion. So that's why this is named as top-down cracking because the cracks has been started at the top portion and going towards the down portion. Okay, so different conditions are there, right? So obviously, if you go in the summers, the maximum heat you can be facing is from 10 o'clock to evening 4 o'clock. Okay, so this is the critical duration we need to consider in the design. And also, every axle will be coming here. Whether it's a single axle, if it's a tandem axle is also coming, it will be adding up. But when there are three axles, that is tridem axle, so load will be distributed evenly. So we don't have to consider the tridem axles while we are considering the bottom-up cracking. Similarly, in case of the top-down cracking, so the morning means night 12 o'clock to morning 6 o'clock, the ambient air will be cooler, but the temperature beneath the slab will be higher. So we need to consider this duration. And only those vehicles, remember only those vehicles whose length is less than the length of the slab or length of the, you can say, joints, will be contributing towards the top-down cracking. Okay, so these are the some of the parameters that they have considered in bottom-up cracking and top-down cracking while we were forming IRC 58 design guidelines. Okay, so now the question is happening, like Dr. Amrendra started with, our concrete is very good. Okay, our concrete is very, very strong. So how the failure is happening if the concrete is very good? So let's say, if you can see this calculator, let's say this is the payment. Okay, and this is the truck. Can you say when the truck is coming, this will be having any problem? No. Okay. So because the loading of the truck will be very less. So you can simulate by this thing. Then how the cracks are coming? Okay. So what we can see here, that when, let's say if I little bit increase the loading, okay, nothing will happen if I beat it for the one time. But if I keep on beating it, after some time there will be some fatigue in the calculator. Okay, and then one crack will be generated either at the top or at the bottom. If it is the morning time, at the bottom; if it is the night time, at the top. And if I keep on, repeatedly, then the crack will be propagated. That is known as fatigue crack. Okay, so because of the fatigue cracking, the payment failure will be happening. Okay, so we need to compute the stress ratio. Stress ratio is nothing but the stresses that are coming because of my truck to the strength of the payment. Obviously, let's say now I have this stylish stick. If I keep some other thing, let's say pen, which is very light weight. So obviously, the stresses, the flexure stresses will be very less as compared to strength of the slab. So there will be no failure, but we don't know, right? So we did many analyses, and what we found that because of the pen, you keep on beating the pen, nothing will happen. But if you increase it slightly the stresses, or you can say if you replaces the pen with this heavy stick, then the cracking can happen. Okay, but now you should come out with some numbers. So we came out with some numbers. Okay, and we represented it in terms of the stress ratio. Okay, so what we came out that when the stresses in the payment because of the temperature or because of the loading is, and the ratio to the strength of the slab is less than 0.45. Less than 0.45 means, let's say the flexure stress is 1 because of the combined action of the temperature and the loading, and the strength of the payment is 3. So obviously the ratio will be less than 33%. That means nothing, no cracking will be happening. And the payment can sustain infinite repetitions of a single load. However, if the stress ratio is between 0.45 to 0.55, that means now there will be one time when the payment will be failing. Okay, so that you can compute with the help of this model. And when you stress by flexure strength of the slab is more than 0.55, that means if your, let's say, if your stresses because of the temperature and loading is 1.6 or 1.7, right, then your life of the payment will be decreasing. Okay, so you can, you have to compute all these stresses, stress ratio for different conditions, for the bottom-up cracking, for the top-down cracking, for different axles. Okay, and then you have to compute the life of the payment. Okay, we call it as a fatigue damage. So fatigue damage is nothing but what is the expected repetition of a particular load for all the axles divided by how much repetitions can my payment sustain before failure. Okay, and that is fatigue damage. So obviously my fatigue damage for in the morning time as well as the night time should be less than 1, because if it is 1, that means, let's say if it is 1, so what will happen? The repetitions are exactly the same what my payment can sustain. That means failure will happen. So what you are doing when your fatigue damage is more than 1, you have 2 choices only. Sorry, 3 choices. One is reduce the temperature differential, but you cannot play with the nature. Or you reduce the loading. How you can reduce the loading? Nothing you cannot do, right? So that means what is the single thing we are left with? Increase the strength of the slab. So how we can increase the strength of the slab? Because we don't have anything to reduce the stresses. So how to increase the strength? Either you increase the thickness of the payment, but it's not an economical thing. Then what we can use? We can increase the grade of the concrete that we'll be discussing in the second presentation. So grade means if I have M30 concrete, you can increase to M40, M50. So my strength of the concrete will be increasing. So the stress ratio will be dropping, and simultaneously my damage will be reduced below 1. Right. So this is the basic design fundamentals of IRC 58. So there are other some of the factors that we have missed. Okay, that we minutely discussed in this presentation, that we have single axle. So this is a single axle. It doesn't mean this is a track. Okay, so if I draw, the track will be like this. here one axle will be there. Okay, this is the front axle and this is the rear axle. So we design considering the rear axle because at the front loading will be very less. You can say 1/3 loading will be here and 2/3 of loading of overall loading will be here. Okay, so this is a single when there is only one axle at the rear side. When there are three axles, it will be named as tridem axle, and when there are only two axles, then it will be named as tandem axle. Okay, so obviously when a loading, let's say loading P is applied, it will be distributed towards the payment by P/2, P/2, right? And now because the loading at this interface will be higher, so the stresses will be maximum. However, if I apply the same loading P here, so it will be distributed in three axles, right? So what will happen? The stresses beneath this tire will be very, very less as compared to this configuration. So that means the worst scenario is when there is single axle on the rear side and your truck is flowing. Okay, if it's a big truck with many axles, the stresses will be very less. The damage contributed towards the payment by those multi-axle vehicles will be very less. So the culprit, if some cracks are happening, will always be either the poor construction or mostly because of overloading, right? And the vehicle configuration. So in India, okay, like if you go onto the on the highway, there will be some challans. Okay, so we have some legal axle load. So for single axle, the legal axle load is 10.2 ton. Now recently, okay, the government has increased. Not recently, 2 years back, the government has increased this loading also to, I think, I'm not sure about the figures. It's 11.5. Okay, then tandem axle, obviously because there are two axles, we can increase the loading. So we increase the loading to 1910, and for tridem axle, we further increase the loading. So when somebody is coming to you and says that we need to design a new payment, then you need to map all these axles along with the loading. Okay, so for that you need to do a axle load survey for 48 hours continuously, and based upon the number of commercial vehicles per day, you have to decide the sampling size. Okay. Now the other governing parameter is the contact pressure. Okay. So what we have, if you in the newspaper, I mostly heard that on Yamuna Expressway, tire burst cases were reported. So accidents were reported because of the tires. So they said because there is a concrete payment, so concrete payment is a culprit there. But no, it was the contact pressure. So let's discuss how. So if let's say if your tire pressure inside your tire is lesser, so what will happen? Your tires will be in compression. Okay, your contact area will be more. If your contact area will be more, the pressure onto the concrete will be more. But now you say stress is equal to load upon area. Okay, so if I have more area, the stresses should be lesser. But here your tires are also in compression, right? And moreover, okay, because now the load is distributed, the stresses will be lesser, right? It's a common thing. Let's say we have this condition where you had more pressure in your tire. So what will happen? The tire, if you see the length of the tire, original diameter will be increased because the walls will be in tension. Okay, and then the pressure onto the pavement will be lesser. It doesn't mean you increase your tire pressure up, to significantly larger. Why? This is the photo. If you see here, when you have lesser pressure in your tire, so what will happen? The shape of your tire will be like this. Okay, so all the loading that is coming will be distributed on the two sides. Okay, because this is not in contact. But when I have overinflated, so what will happen? My shape will be like this. So entire pressure will be distributed here, right? And if I have optimum inflation pressure in the tire, so the load can be distributed evenly. That means we need to keep the pressure in our tires to the optimum amount. If it is lesser than it, then there will be more wear and tear of your tire. If it is more than it, like usual truck person will be doing it because they knows if you keep more tire pressure, then the wear and tear of the pavement will be of the tires will be lesser, and then there will be tension in your tire walls, and because of that, when they will be weighing it, so lesser pressure will be coming. So in IRC 58, what we have considered, because obviously we need to consider the worst scenario. It should be on the conservative side. We considered that the tire pressure as 0.8, which is higher. Okay, so we have considered this thing. And if you see how it is affecting, like we just discussed, that the effect of tire pressure on the stresses in the payment will be very, very less, especially on the unbound layers. If I talk about the flexible payment design, only it affects the quality of the bearing force. Okay, if the tire pressure is lesser, in this case, what will happen? There will be, fuel consumption will be more because the tire will be in, full contact, and the wear and tear of the payment will be, of the tire will be higher. But if you have more pressure, what will happen? The damage onto the payment will be more, but the comfort, but you will be feeling some comfort. Okay. But if you have proper tire pressure, so everything will be there. There will be safety, there will be lesser damage onto the payment, lesser wear tear of the payment. So generally we are keeping based upon whether the rear side or the front side, 30 to 40 psi is considered to be good. Okay, so the remaining aspects of the IRC 58 we are designing for 30 years. Okay, that means if, let's say, in the present case, if two vehicles are coming, we have to predict in 30 years how many vehicles will be coming. Okay, so if we can predict it in 30 years, that means we need to consider this much of traffic, because you remember we are designing here for fatigue, means repetitions. Okay, so we need to consider this thing. If we are considering only two tires, so what will happen? Once the third vehicle will be coming, damage will be there. Right? So we need to design for 30 years. But how to design it for 30? How to know that how many vehicles will be coming after 30 years? So simple bank formula. Okay, simple interest formula. For that we need to have a R value. So R value generally lies between 5 to 7.5%. But nowadays, because of the new axle load, multi-axle vehicles are more. Okay, so if you have single axle, which are the culprit, tandem and tridem axles. So for each scenario, the R value can be different. Okay, you need to map it. If you cannot, IRC 58 gives you a liberty that you can assume a value of between 5 to 7.5%. Okay, and we know that we are designing the payment by considering that the vehicle, the worst condition will be when the vehicle is flowing at a distance of 150 mm from the edges, right? 150 mm from the edges. So how many vehicles will be flowing in the edges? So simply what we can do, when the payment is two-lane, two-way, means vehicle are going there and coming from this direction. Okay, so we can divide it into 4 parts. Okay, to this part and to this part. So we can say the total vehicles which are coming in both the directions, you multiply it by 25%, and for that you need to design. Now one of my students asked, sir, why can't we design for 100% of vehicles? I said, yeah, if you have more money, you can design it. As a highway engineer, as a highway designer, we should be conservative, but we should also think about the economy. Okay, so what happens if I have 8 lanes, or we can say 4 lanes and two-way divided highway? So obviously, what will happen? We need to map the vehicles in both the direction, and we have to see which direction more vehicles are going. Let's say this is your, Chandigarh, and this is your Delhi. Okay, so obviously, okay, if more vehicles will be going to Delhi than Chandigarh. So what we have to do? You have to consider this traffic. Okay, and then again same formula, divide it into 4 parts and consider the 25% of all the vehicles in a single direction, predominant direction, and consider it for the design. So now, like we discussed, when you in the daytime there will be positive temperature differential, and in night time there will be negative temperature differential that we have discussed. Okay, now the question is that if all the traffic conditions are same, everything is same truck is flowing in, let's say, Uttarakhand, and the same vehicle is coming to Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh. Okay, everything is same. So that means the thickness should also say no, thickness will not be same. This is why, because of different temperature differential. Okay, and if the temperature differential, we know the stresses are not because of the loading but because of the temperature. So if the temperature differential is more, temperature differential means the temperature at top and bottom. If it is more, so stresses will be more, so thicker payment slab will be required. Okay, so if I have to construct one payment for all the conditions, similar condition except for the location, then this payments that will be constructed in northern part will be requiring lesser payment thickness as compared to coastal area side like Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. Okay, so this is because of the difference in temperature differential. So if there are some research scholars here, we have one research idea here that this table, okay, was constructed in 1974 and still we are using the same values. And there is a significant advancement in the quality of the concrete because of global warming. There will be significant advancements, or we say uh, effect on the temperature differential. So you can do this study. So the other factor that has been considered in ISA 58 is zero stress temperature gradient. That means because of temperature there is no stresses. When it can happen, obviously when the concrete is in the fresh state. Okay, there will be no stresses. This is of no use. But permanent curling is a factor that you have to consider. Permanent curling means in the daytime, remember, see, in the daytime the shape was like this, right? In the nighttime the shape of this slab was like this because it was the cooler portion, right? It will go towards the cooler portion. But in the daytime also, the payment can curl in this portion. How? Say I have just poured my concrete and there is a sun. Okay, so what will happen? There is zero stress temperature gradient. Entire payment will be having same stresses. But because of the loss of moisture from the surface, concrete will try to shrink. And when the concrete is trying to shrink, what will happen? The shape will be like this. Okay, that's why we say we need to cover the pavement just after construction, because we start doing the curing after 1 day, but before that, if the temperature is more than 30 degrees Celsius, cover it, else the pavement will be like this. Now you say, oh, if my pavement shape is like this, permanent, it will be for permanent. That means in the daytime when it's trying to curl downwards, so it has to overcome this shape, right? So it will be advantageous. Yes, you are correct. It will be advantageous because if my shape is like this, and because of the after construction, if it trying to go downwards, it will go lesser because it's already curl upwards, right? Yeah, you are right. But in the night time, I know my pavement will be curling upside, and once it's already curled, then that means more curling will be there. So you need to consider those aspects in design. So what we can do for conservative design, in the bottom up cracking, which is the condition for the daytime, don't subtract 5 degrees Celsius. This is 5 degrees Celsius. We came out with this number by doing studies that because of the permanent curling, the curling will be like what will happen when there is a temperature differential of 5 degrees Celsius. But at the night time, you need to add this 5 degrees Celsius. Okay, so when Professor K.S. Reddy will be teaching, you should remember that 5 degrees Celsius we are adding because of this, to take into account this permanent curling. Okay, so now the important question. We did something in laptop, we made some formulas. Okay, then how to do in the real scenario? If you see here, for structure modeling, I have considered only a thin elastic plate, or you can say PQC, and your subgrade. But in the real life, you are having subgrade, subbase, DLC. How can I relate it? So what you have to do, you have to follow some methodology. Okay, so methodology is that, can't I convert, see, I know the entire subgrade is represented by a K value. So what I have to do, I have to convert the entire lower layers into a single K value. Okay, so we can do it. How? We'll be taking up. First thing is that we have to club the embankment and subgrade together, and then club embankment and subgrade which are already clubbed together, then club this one to GSB. Okay, then club all the things to DLC, and then you can come out with a K value. So calculate a K value for this one, let's say K1. Calculate the K value for considering GSB, let's say this K2, and then add K1, K2 with K value of DLC, you will be getting a K value. How to do it? We'll see. Now clubbing the subgrade with the embankment. Okay, remember subgrade, let's say you know CBR value, right? I need 8% CBR for the subgrade. No, it's not for the subgrade. It is for the effective K value. Let's say I have a soil having a CBR value of 50, but the embankment CBR is 1.5. So what will happen? The combined CBR value will only be 10%. Okay. So you are having a subgrade of good quality. You have added cement in it, and you are saying that CBR is very good. No, it also depends upon the CBR value of your embankment. So you have to take. So we have the value, right? Now you have to predict the K value as we discussed in the initial slides. That with the help of this CBR value, you can find the value of the K by using the table that is given in IRC 58. Okay, so now we have clubbed the embankment and subgrade together with the help of this chart, and I have predicted the K value corresponding to the combined CBR of subgrade and embankment. Okay, now after that I'll be having the GSB. Okay, subbase. So you already have the K value of the subgrade, and if you know the thickness of your granular subbase, you can use these relations, you can use these charts, and you can come out with a K value. We'll be solving one numerical. Okay. Then after that we have the DLC. So this table you can use it for relating the K value of other layers for the DLC. Okay, that's how you can club. So these are the design steps. I am not touching the design steps because in 10 minutes or 15 minutes we cannot complete. So Professor K.S. Reddy will be covering this portion. Okay, so let's say we take example that a new pavement is to be constructed for a national highway. So obviously, once you hear this thing national highway, that means DLC should be 150 mm, right? And subgrade should be 500 mm. So you have to, now calculate the thickness for your pavement quality concrete. And you have to use many layers because it's a national highway, right? But in a structure model, you have PQC sitting over a subgrade. So now convert all these things into a single K value. Right? How to do it? As I said, we know the CBR value of the subgrade. Okay, predict the K value. Let's say we have 8% CBR, which is recommended by the IRC. So you have to do the interpolation. You will be getting a K value of 50 corresponding to a CBR 8%. Right? Now you are providing the granular subbase of 150 mm. Right? And this K value for this subgrade is 50. So it will be lying in between 28 and 56. Then simply interpolate and you are getting a K value. Okay, now after GSB you are having a DLC, right? Now you have to club together. So now, because it's a national highway, you have to provide a DLC of 150 mm and the K value is 58. Then simply 58 will be lying in between this. So interpolate it, it will be 300. But this is where you need to listen. Okay, you remember once you are providing the DLC, the K value contribution by your subbase will not be there. Okay, but when you are not providing the DLC, then you have to follow these steps, right? Because the table says that the K value of the subgrade is affecting the effective K value when you are providing DLC, and this is one of the lacunas in the present code. So if somebody wants to do some research, you vary all these parameters and see what will happen. Okay, and these are the other steps that I'm not going to touch it. Okay, but I can show you something. Okay, so what you have to do, you have to do the fatigue damage analysis for different pavement thickness. And as we discussed, the sum of fatigue damage for bottom-up cracking and top-down cracking should be less than 1. If it is more than 1, increase the grade of the concrete or increase the thickness. So I started with 24 centimeter thickness. The fatigue damage came out to be more than 50. Okay, then I increase the thickness up to a point when your fatigue damage is less than 1. When your fatigue damage is less than 1, then you say this thickness is safe thickness. Okay, and you have to increase it by 1 centimeter because you have to provide some texturing. Okay, so IRC 58 gives you liberty to do many trials. You can have earthen shoulders, you can have tight concrete shoulders, you can widen acrylic shoulders. In fact, you can have a bonding between PQC and DLC, but it's still under experimental stage. Okay, So yeah, these are the some of the things, okay, where you can find some of the missing interference from IS 58. So our general perception says that higher the thickness of the pavement, the stresses will be lesser. Okay, right, irrespective. Okay, and when you can see here, this is the K value, that is the strength of the underlying layers. So lower the strength of the underlying layers, more will be the stresses on the pavement. Okay, you can see here. This is for K value 40, this is K value from 300. That means if my underlying layers are good enough, the stresses at a particular thickness will be lesser. However, these tables are valid when there is a no temperature differential, but we know temperature differential will always be there, because in the morning time temperature at the top will be higher and lesser will be bottom, and vice versa during the night time. That means these tables cannot be used, these figures, sorry. So what happens when you have a temperature differential? I picked up only one figure, and what you can see here, that now your general perception that higher the thickness of the pavement, lesser will be stress, doesn't valid here. This is because higher pavement thickness, more will be the temperature differential, more will be the stresses. Okay, so this is one of the things that has been considered in IRC 58. And we have published one paper in IRC only. Okay, what we did, we changed the CBR of the subgrade. We changed the thickness of the subbase. We changed the type of thickness. Okay, sorry, type of the subbase, from granule subbase to cementated subbase to dry land concrete subbase. For all the conditions, if you see, the trial thickness comes out to be 31 centimeters only. This is for a particular case. That means if I give this liberty to a contractor or a designer, obviously, why they will go with the DLC then? Okay, DLC is expensive. They will definitely go with the GSB of 150 mm. Okay, and why they will go for the CBR of 10% if 2% and 10% is requiring the same thickness? Okay, so that is one of the lacunas in the present code. Okay, so you can do the research on it, because while we were framing it, we have to take some assumptions. Okay, and it's a subsequent process. So some researchers will be doing something. Now you have to contribute. Okay, and moreover, the entire IRC 58 has been formed for a slab size of 3.5 into 4.5. Okay, so what you have to do, when in some of the cases the slab dimension will be lesser, it's conservative, because lesser the dimension of the slab, lesser will be the temperature stresses. But what will happen if pavement width is more? So definitely stresses will be more. That means in that case you cannot use IRC 58 2015 guidelines, right? So this is my last slide. Okay, and these persons helped me in framing the presentations. Okay, and thank you very much. And now I am open to take the questions.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Amrita.
Participants, if you have any queries, you please put it in chat box so that sir can answer.
I think they will be understanding more when Professor K.S. Reddy will be, teaching the design procedure. Then they can relate the things.
Sir, there is a slide number 17 suggestive. You can see the chat box. Some questions.
Yeah, I can take the questions. So please free to, write the questions there. I'll take one by one question. So the first question is slide number 13. There is LX, LY, and L are mentioned. Okay, could not understand. So see, LX is the length of the slab in X direction, that you can say width of the slab, and LY is the length of the slab. Right. And this L, the other L is radius of relative stiffness. Like we discussed, when you apply the loading, only some of the portion will be deflecting. Right. So the distance between the center of the loading to the point of counter fracture will be the radius of relative stiffness. Okay. Then why we are not considering dynamic loading? Okay, see, as I told, when we are forming some guidelines, it should be for the worst scenario, right? So when your pavement will be there and when your vehicles will be flowing, so the stresses on the pavement will be lesser. But when your pavement is there and your vehicle is standing in a static position, so more time, more loading will be there, more interaction will be there, more stresses will be there. So if my payment can sustain the static loading, that means it can sustain the dynamic loading as well as, right. So that's why we are considering the static loading. Why the crack is shown as compression zone, as concrete is good in compression. Okay, yeah. See, as I told, when let's say this is the daytime, my slab will be like this. Okay, but it cannot be it cannot be curled in a downward direction in the daytime. Some forces will be restricting. So when it's trying to curl, this is not the shape because the payment will be like this only. But for the representative purpose, I showed like this. So what will happen? My payment will try to curl downwards, but the resistance by the double bars, because of the subgrade, it will be trying to push it upwards from this side. Okay, so the signs will be changing. Earlier the sign should be compressive and tension here, but because of the resistance, the compression will be here and tension will be here. Okay. So is standard axle load and legal axle loads are same? Yeah, both are same. Why we are not considering dynamic loading? Yeah, I replied you that static loading condition is for the conservative side. We are designing it. It's a worst scenario. Okay. So do you consider the IRC loading for design of rigid and concrete? How do we consider the IRC loading for design of rigid? Yeah, you can consider it. Okay. So, but what happens now? These guidelines came into 2015. So we have to follow. We have to strictly adhere to the guidelines. If it is written in a tender, if it is not written in a tender, okay, then you can adopt the actual, actual loading conditions. What is the equivalent radius of resistance section? Okay. So what will happen if, the question is what do you mean by equivalent radius of resisting section? So if my payment, okay, is deflecting, right? So payment, the thickness of the payment, the length of the payment, the width of the payment will be resisting that deflection, right? So how much area is resisting that deformation is known as radius of equivalent resisting section, because we are considering that the tire imprint is circular for the simplicity. So that's why we are considering it's the radius of equivalent resisting section. In some cases, rigid payment is laid over the WBM, but not on the PQC. Why so? See, PQC is rigid payment only. Okay, PQC and concrete payment are same, but when your concrete strength is more than M40 and the slump value is around 25 to 40 mm, that concrete we are saying as the payment quality concrete. Okay, it's a mixture. The name has been given to that medium strength, or you can say normal strength concrete matrix. Okay, PQC. So in some of the cases, we have dryland concrete, right? We are getting a K value for the dryland concrete because we are clubbing everything together. When you are having the WBM layer, IRC 58 doesn't allow you because they didn't consider this thing. But if something is there, you have to find out the K value that is provided by the WBM layer, and then you can consider it for the design. Do CBR value give true picture of the radius of relative stiffness? See, there is no relation has been established till now which can relate the CBR value and the radius of relative stiffness. But yeah, from the common sense, it's right. More the CBR value, so what will happen? The resistance will be more, and your L value will be higher, right? So yeah, there is a relationship, but we cannot predict it. Up to now, there is no single relation in numbers. Yeah. Yeah. If there are more questions, you can definitely write to me also. Yeah, one more question from Lakshmi. With reference to slide number 43, why was the payment thickness not affected by K value or GSB? Can you please go back to that point? Yeah, see, once we are adopting this mechanistic empirical design, so we are going with some assumptions, right? So I told you, when you are designing your payment for the national highway or the expressway, so you need to provide the dryland concrete, and then all the other layers are provided, they are not designed as a load bearing layer. GSB is provided as a suppression layer, GSB is provided for the drainage layer. They will not be helping it, right? But if you are going for the rural road where you don't require the dryland concrete, in that condition, what will be happening? That you don't have to provide the dryland concrete. In that condition, K value can be increased. So there are some, some lacunas in the present code. This is one of the lacuna. That's why they say CBR minimum 8%. Highways go with the dry lane concrete 150 mm. For national highways, you have to always go with 150 mm. Once it's major district road, you can select 10 centimeter of dry lane concrete. But in both the cases, if the loading is same, CVPD is same, the thickness will be same. So these are the lacunas, and we cannot do all the things, right? Some of the persons like Professor B.B. Pandey, he contributed extensively towards the development. He developed this code, so there will be few lacunas. We have to fill those gaps.
Yeah, okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Participants, if you have still any doubts, you can anytime like send mail to Dr. Surendra Singh. So now I request Mr. Chaitanya to provide concluding remarks. Then afterwards we will start second session. Sir, do you want some break, sir, in between?
Yeah, give me at least 5 minutes break. I need to drink the water.
Yeah, okay, sir. So Chaitanya, please.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good morning,
Thank
sir.
you. Good morning.
Hi, sir. For coming to the today's session, sir has clearly explained what are the difference between empirical and mechanistic designs, and how can we use that mechanistic empirical design in detail. And later on, he discussed about the different structural models and distress models. Uh, and by using these models, how we can calculate, how we can design the concrete payment was detailedly discussed by sir, and he mentioned about the critical positions and what are the difference between curling, warping, and frictional stresses, and he explained very clearly that about that, and how these variations in temperatures may cause that top down and bottom up cracking, or also briefly explained. And coming to that, and another point, the mechanism of failure and the cumulative fatigue damage of payments was also explained. So, and he mentioned about the different axle load configurations and how contact pressure affect the payment design, and it will affect the vehicles also mentioned. And finally, he mentioned about the permanent curling, uh, which will be added to the payment during the night times. And he mentioned about effective CBR values and how to calculate the subgrade modulus values for different layers like GSB, DLC was mentioned clearly, and not but the least. Without interaction, no presentation is complete. And Sir take all the questions and gave a very clear explanation. So thank you, sir. Thanks for your wonderful and informative presentations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, no problem. Can we take 5 minutes break, sir? We will be at 11:40.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Participant will meet at 11:40.
Sir, feedback link. Dear participants, I will send a feedback link. Please fill that form.